When Aladdin used the lamp for revenge, a kingdom paid the price. Aladdin once dreamed of freedom, love, and a better life beyond the dusty streets of Agrabah. But dreams have a cost, and so do the wounds we carry from a world that never truly welcomes us. On the night he stood beneath the royal palace, watching as the gates close him out once again, Aladdin made a different wish. Not for love, not for peace, but for power. With trembling hands and eyes burning with betrayal, he rubbed the lamp, this time not to change his fate, but to change the rules. Before we reveal how a street rat became a dark legend fear across the sands, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments, what would you do with 3 unlimited wishes? Because what you're about to witness isn't the Aladdin you thought you knew. It's the version the story's buried, the one where the lamp's true cost is finally paid. And it all begins with a whisper of revenge, and a kingdom that never saw it coming. Let's return to the shadows of Agrabah, where the line between savior and tyrant fades with each wish. The golden towers of Agrabah gleamed in the distance, but Aladdin walked through shadows. The market no longer cheered his name. The same hands that once reached for him now clutched their purses tighter. Royal consort, they whispered, but still a street rat. He had traded rags for silk, yet the stench of poverty clung to him in their eyes. Even the palace guard, who once bowed, now stood stiff and silent as he passed, like statues pretending not to notice the shift in Jasmine's affection. Something had changed. Power, it seemed, was borrowed, not earned, and the weight of being tolerated had begun to rot inside him. He tried to hold on to Jasmine's warmth, her laughter echoing in gardens that once felt like home. But even she began to hesitate, glancing at him as if trying to see the man beneath the title. The Sultan, growing frail, had summoned advisors behind closed doors. Rumors whispered through the marble halls of Aladdin's bloodline, his lack of noble heritage, his quick temper. Every step he took in the palace felt like a test. He was silently failing. One evening, he overheard his name spoken with disgust by the vizier. That night, the lamp called to him, not as hope, but as weapon. The genie emerged, brilliant and bound, offering the same grin, the same booming voice, but this time, Aladdin didn't smile back. He asked no questions. He made no jokes. He simply stared, and the genie hesitated. "Master," he said, uneasy. Aladdin turned away from him, walking toward the balcony overlooking the slums. "They laugh at me," he murmured. "They forget what it means to starve." His hands clenched the edge of the railing, knuckles white. "They think I've forgotten, too." The genie said nothing. He sensed it then. The shift. This wasn't a boy asking for a dream. This was a man who had bled for everything, and now wanted repayment. In the streets below, a child begged for bread, and was kicked aside by a merchant Aladdin once stole from. The boy's eyes met his for a split second, pure, hollow hunger, and something cracked in Aladdin's chest. He turned to the genie again. "I want justice," he said. The genie flinched. Justice or revenge? Aladdin's silence was answer enough. The genie, for the first time in centuries, paused before responding. "One wish left," he said softly. Aladdin didn't respond. He stared into the night, where the gold of the palace faded into the grime of the city, and felt something inside him decide. The next morning, the Sultan's favorite merchant found his fortune turned to sand. His ships rotted in the harbor. His sons vanished. The city whispered, unsure. Jasmine watched Aladdin from across the banquet table that evening. He didn't eat. He didn't blink. She called his name softly. He looked up and smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. That was the moment she knew. Whatever still remained of the boy who once dreamed of the stars had gone silent, and something darker had taken its place. Aladdin's first act was surgical. A merchant who once called him filth during his childhood found his mansion swallowed by flames in the dead of night. No bodies, no explanation. Only a silver coin left on the doorstep, the same coin he once threw at young Aladdin's feet in mockery. Whispers erupted through the city, but no one dared speak the name. The people feared curses, ghosts, a rising curse upon the elite. In truth, Aladdin had not wished for fire, only for the merchant to feel exactly what he made others feel. The lamp had delivered it with poetic cruelty, and with that, Aladdin began reshaping Agrabah in silence. He still walked the palace, still touched Jasmine's hand at feasts, but his mind wandered elsewhere. The genie grew more reserved, watching his master's tone darken with each whisper of the court. When Aladdin used his second wish, it wasn't for riches or immortality. "Silence," he commanded. "I wish you'd never question me again." The genie blinked, torn between obedience and sorrow, and the wish bound his voice in invisible chains. That night, alone, Aladdin laughed for the first time in weeks. But even in that laughter, there was no joy, only the tremble of a man who had stepped past the line and found no resistance. With the genie muzzled and his power unchecked, Aladdin began to reward the broken. He built a hidden quarter of the city, the Hollow, where orphan thieves and beggars lived in splendor, guarded by enchanted statues and fed by bottomless fruit bowls. But the Hollow was no charity. Its walls bore his symbol, and its residents owed him absolute loyalty. Once forgotten, they were now his silent army. Jasmine tried to visit once, but was turned away by eyes she no longer recognized. "Only the fallen may enter," a boy told her. Aladdin never mentioned the Hollow at dinner. He didn't need to. The fear in the court was enough. Nobles began to vanish, or wake screaming from dreams of drowning. Scribes rewrote histories in secret. The Sultan, confused and weakened by age, signed decrees without reading. One nobleman was exiled for sneezing in Aladdin's presence, another for asking about the lamp. Jasmine begged him to stop, pleading with him under the moonlight. "You're becoming the thing you fought against," she whispered. Aladdin caressed her face gently. "No," he replied. "I'm becoming the man they feared I would be." The genie, now silent in the corner of the room, lowered his eyes as if mourning something only he could see. The second wish had taken more than a voice. It had taken the last honest witness. And the third wish, it loomed. Aladdin now carried the lamp not as a token of luck, but as a symbol of dominion. He spoke less, smiled rarely, and trusted no one. But even as he built his empire of fear and false justice, a crack began to form, not in his rule, but in his heart. At night, he touched Jasmine's side of the bed and found it cold. Outside, rumors stirred of an alliance forming within the palace. Somewhere, in the depths of the Hollow, the genie's silence pulsed like a curse waiting to be broken. The palace fell into quiet dread. Servants moved with eyes lowered, too afraid to speak his name aloud. Jasmine stopped attending council meetings. She watched Aladdin from the shadows, sensing a foreign presence in the man she once loved. When her father collapsed during a banquet, coughing black bile after sipping his wine, something inside her snapped. The court healer blamed a curse. But Jasmine saw the wine glass shimmer for a second, just before Aladdin reached across the table and gently took it from her hand. That night, she followed the lamp's glow into his private chambers and found the genie, weeping silently in a cage of mirrored glass. The third wish had not yet been spoken, but it had already begun to manifest. Aladdin was testing its power without uttering the words. The air around the lamp thickened each day. The genie, though still silent, began to crack, his skin glowing with fractures of energy. Jasmine stood before Aladdin, her voice trembling. "What have you done?" He raised the lamp slowly, and for the first time his voice bore no uncertainty. "I want him bound, forever, not a servant, a slave." The genie fell to his knees as lightning curled around him. Jasmine screamed, but Aladdin only turned away, as if disgusted by the noise of resistance. As the third wish sealed, a tremor spread through Agrabah. The skies darkened, clouds swirling unnaturally. Statues from the Hollow rose and marched to the palace, possessed by the genie's imprisoned essence. They bore no eyes, only glowing sigils across their chests. Symbols of Aladdin's will. Doors shattered, courtyards burned. Aladdin didn't flinch. From the top balcony, he raised his hand, and his army of the broken bowed beneath him. "This kingdom mocked me," he declared. "Now it kneels." The citizens, terrified, obeyed, but not all. In the chaos, Jasmine slipped away, clutching the lamp. Her heart was breaking, but her mind was clear. It had to end. She fled to the old ruins beyond the city, the place where Aladdin had first found the lamp. The winds howled as she ran, shadows chasing her, Creatures formed from sand and regret. In the distance, Aladdin sensed a betrayal. With a word, he summoned his corrupted army. "Bring her back," he growled. "Alive, and the lamp intact." But something unexpected happened. As the statues crossed the city's edge, they began to crumble. Outside Agrabah, the genie's influence weakened. Jasmine reached the ruins just as the lamp began to pulse violently in her hands. The genie's fractured voice echoed in her mind. "Break it. Free me. Save him." Aladdin arrived too late. As he stepped into the ruins, he saw her standing with the lamp raised high, tears streaming down her face. "You don't have to be this," she whispered. But Aladdin's eyes were empty. "I already am." Jasmine closed her eyes and brought the lamp crashing down onto the stone. A burst of blue fire erupted, throwing both of them backward. When the smoke cleared, the genie was gone. The cage shattered, but so was something else. Aladdin rose slowly, coughing blood, and looked at his hands. They were turning to ash. "You freed him," he whispered. "But not me." The ruins were silent. Ash drifted through the air like snow, settling on the broken pieces of the lamp. Jasmine crawled across the stone floor, coughing, her hands blistered. She searched for Aladdin, but the man she knew was no longer there. What rose from the dust was a shadow of him, barely able to stand, eyes sunken, voice hoarse. "He was all I had left," Aladdin murmured, meaning the genie. Without the lamp, the rage that held him together began to dissolve. The palace, the soldiers, even the hollow, everything tied to his will, was unraveling. Agrabah's skyline returned to its original shape as if waking from a nightmare. The genie, freed, did not flee. He stood before Aladdin and Jasmine, his expression no longer whimsical but weary and ancient. "3 wishes bind me," he said, "but freedom binds me more." He looked at Aladdin not with anger, but with sorrow. "You wished for revenge and lost everything worth avenging." With a wave of his hand, he lifted Jasmine gently to her feet, then turned to Aladdin. "You can't undo what's been done, but you could be forgotten." Aladdin, kneeling and broken, did not resist. For the first time in his life, he wished for nothing. The next morning, the kingdom awoke to peace. No armies of stone, no curses, no memory of chaos. The Sultan sat upright in bed, fully recovered, with no memory of the night before. Jasmine walked the halls, as if awakening from a long fever dream. The people rejoiced, feeling lighter without knowing why. But in a quiet corner of the city, a young boy with dirt on his cheeks played in an alley, holding a strange, cracked piece of metal. He had no name, no family, no memory, but his eyes sparkled with something distant and golden. He rubbed the object absent-mindedly. Nothing happened. Still he smiled. Jasmine stood on the palace balcony, gazing out across the city. She held a book in her hands, a journal Aladdin once kept. It was now blank. Every word vanished. She pressed it to her chest. The genie appeared beside her, no longer bound, simply present. "What happens now?" she asked. "Stories change," he said. "People forget, but sometimes they remember the right version." Jasmine nodded. He wanted to be a hero. The genie gave a faint smile. And he was, until the world made him believe he wasn't allowed to be. Jasmine closed her eyes, letting the sun warm her face. She didn't cry. As twilight fell, the lamp's last shards faded into sand, carried by the wind across the dunes. No one remembered Aladdin the prince. No one feared Aladdin the tyrant. But somewhere in the stories told by wandering musicians and grandmothers by firelight, there lingered the tale of a boy who made 3 wishes and disappeared. Some said it was justice, others mercy. But the genie knew the truth. Sometimes the greatest punishment is being erased by your own story. And somewhere in the dust of Agrabah, a child dreams. Not palaces of revenge, but flying carpets and starlit rooftops, with no name to weigh him down.